All right, guys, so coming at you with a video here with hopefully just some setup tips for hack squats. I'm going to mention for about 5 seconds some little things, but just pretty much anything that people could benefit from hack squats, depending on the brand your gym has or whatever. Just some stuff, like I said, that's going to cover, stuff from feet to back and all that stuff, just to put yourself in the best position to not mess up. Main things I'm going to go through here again is the setup of the hack squat. Same as the rest of the things in this video is not going to go through all the mechanics of it, the pace and all that kind of stuff, really just making sure that you have the setup position right. I'm not going to cover proper band setup or even modifying range of motion for more than 5 seconds. So again, if you want to cover bands, really the whole goal of bands is they should be very tight at the bottom and very loose and completely loose as you come to the top. There you go. Don't mess up bands. If you have a hack squat where you bottom out before you hit your full range of motion, put some pads on here. So you can do AirX pads. So if you just or foam pads, just type foam workout pad in Amazon. This is literally lashed on here with a lashing strap, or you could use a yoga block. So that is, I think, a big thing. The whole point of a hack squat is to hit full knee flexion. That's all the rest of the tips I'm going to give you is hit full knee flexion and keep everything locked in and stable. If you bottom out before you hit full knee flexion, it's defeating the point of the exercise. So that's why I'm taking 2 seconds to go over this. If you're shorter or someone had a piss poor hack design like the original Arsenal, you guys messed up the original design on here. Good job with that. But if you're shorter, like most normal hacks, it's only going to be issues for people that are maybe like under 5'2" or something. In which case, again, this is worth going and spending some money. Yoga pads are even easier than this because they're a little bit deeper and you don't have to chop them in half. So get a yoga pad, get a lashing strap, search for those on Amazon, and then again, you'll actually be able to get the benefit of the exercise. Hopefully everyone can understand that if it bottoms out, however thick this pad is, that's how many more inches range of motion you get. So aside from that, the two big things here, and the biggest stuff is going to be foot placement, and then I'll go a little bit into back pad from there. So what you want to have happen is you want to have your feet as low as possible. That's probably the most important thing on the platform before your heels start to peel up. You don't have to have all the load through your heels. I didn't say that. You want pretty even weight distribution. So if you just imagine, obviously, someone's footprint kind of with a high arch in the sand, where you would have those contact points is where you want the most. So the most of the heel, outside the foot, and all of your toes. And again, it's not bad to have flat feet. If you have a little bit of contact with the arch and you're very flat-footed, no big deal. But you would still want a little bit more pressure through the outside of the foot, heel, and toes. So one, make sure you keep that solid contact. And that would be really the determining factor for depth, is if your feet being as low as possible. You put them as low as possible, and that's how it would start. And then when you go to the bottom, if your heels start to actually come up, you run out of ankle mobility, then just slide them up. So we'll just show my feet real quick while I'm going, hopefully, what I'm talking about. So as I go down to the bottom, let's say I set them really low. So I go all the way to the bottom of the pad here. I go to the bottom of the pad, and when I'm at the bottom, right about here, my heels start to peel up. So yeah, this is great. I can get the full knee flexion, but my heels are not making contact on the platform down here. So I'd say, okay, well, that's a little too low. And so all I would do is I'd say, let's go up half an inch, and then take it down again. And even right here, they're just starting to peel just a tiny bit. Yeah, I'm at full knee flexion, great, that's the goal, but the heels are peeling. So then I would just take them up again, half an inch, and then from there, if I can go down, look at that, I found it just right. What is it? It's like Goldilocks and the Three Dwarfs, and this one was just right. So now I'm in full knee flexion, which was, if anyone says, what's full knee flexion? Hamstring smashed into the calf. So again, as much as the tissue will limit, that's how low you want to go. And I've got good contact. And you can see this is a pretty comfortable position for me here. It shouldn't be like I'm forcing stuff into, I feel like I'm, can barely get out of here and I got to just like kind of fall out and roll to the side. So that's the most important way for just figuring where do you have your feet as far as height. From there, hips can be the limiting factor. So you see the way that I have my stance set up is the way I think most people will probably be most comfortable. So let's call this hip width for me here. Most people, there's no real benefit to staying here for quads anyway. So you could start at hip width, turn the toes out, see how that feels. And again, just for most people, toes out. Most people, we can go out even further. And the whole point of this is people say, is that going to change stuff at the hips? Will it maybe work a little bit more adductors? Maybe, but if your hips are tight, now hips won't be the limiting factor, and you can get down a little bit more comfortably into that full knee flexed position. So that's the main thing for stance. Once you have stance set up, the rest is pretty hard to mess up. So from there, just make sure you have good contact on the pad. If you're taller, sometimes the top of your pelvis can hang off the pad. Is that a big deal? Ideally, you'd want to use the pad. You'd want a pad that's long enough that the top of your pelvis can be on it. But if a little bit's hanging off, obviously you can still do free weight squats, with obviously no back support or pad support. So in my opinion, it's really not that big of a deal. So again, yes, if you can find a hack and you have a hack where your hips are on the top of the pad, keep a good solid contact point there. You're pushing back into that to a certain degree. And then from there, nice neutral spine up. And so that doesn't have to be a flat lower back. You could have a slight arch. But if you just naturally come in and press in here and you have contact from top to bottom, that's great. And then it should go without saying, same for the shoulder pads. So when you lift up, you should have nice solid contact points from here at the top of my hips. I have a slight arch, and then I have my upper back pressed in, arms pressed in from here. And then a big thing I give people tips is make sure you're keeping your head and neck, cervical spine relatively relaxed. A lot of people tell me they'll get headaches when they do hack squats. And lots of times people are extending their cervical spine, pressing their head hard back just because everything's so tense. Yes, you should have your entire body tight. You don't want your head moving around, but that doesn't mean press back into the pad as far as you can. And then from there, wherever you put your hands, put them somewhere still the whole time. I like to use the handles when possible. I like something up here even better. If I didn't have handles, I would probably find a place on the pads here because again, I want my upper body tight. Again, I'm not death gripping this. I'm not pulling in here like I'm trying to move the stack of a pec deck, but the more still everything else can be, the more stable your output's gonna be. So if your hands go, I see people moving their hands are wiggling around. They go from here, they go from here, they grab down here. If shit's moving around, you're gonna lose focus on the other stuff. So find a position that's comfortable. Again, I like to grab something because if you can grab something, you can keep your grip tight, and that's gonna radiate tension basically through everything else in your body. So I will grip these tight. I will press in just a little bit, just so I'm keeping my entire upper body still. And then from there, you're set in a position to go. So everything else is really just about keeping all that stuff still. So upper body still, pressed and still. Feet, really focus on keeping those contact points. Feel like you're pressing hard into the platform the whole rest of the time. And then from there, it's really just about letting your ankle, knee, and hip joint do all of the movement and not let that stuff change. I see people mess up all the time when everything else is moving. You're just taking focus on the stuff, off of the stuff you should be focusing on, and wasting energy, wasting tension somewhere else. So that's the setup. Again, these are setup videos, not really gonna go into the form too much other than how to test the range of motion at the bottom. Yeah, there's probably a little bit more stuff here and there, but that's gonna be the biggest thing, again, to make sure you're in the best position to start and then more likely for success and or avoiding failure, as you actually go into performing the exercise. As always, you find this stuff helpful, don't forget to do the YouTube thing. Like, subscribe, tell some friends, all that stuff. Appreciate you guys. Till next time.